of ICAP.
Fantastic. Yeah, I've got that up here. So I can see some people saying hello. It was a great start session today. Hello, hello. Hello.
I think, Tom, you need to mute one system so that there is no echo.
Ah, yes. That's where it's coming from. Good catch.
We'll wait for 1-2 minutes more so that it reaches 100, so we can start the call.
Sure. Let people grab a glass of water or whatever they need.
So we have participants from Malaysia, India, Philippines, Indonesia, and few from Nepal, Sri Lanka as well.
Fantastic.
Iran also. So there are mixed group now. And I think this is a very good opportunity to promote the .coop on this platform.
Yeah, it's wonderful. There's so many people from so many different areas all coming together. This very much reminds me of the last two GIFs. I'm sure. Well, I'll ask people if they've attended any of those as well. I'm sure we'll have some familiar faces in the audience.
We have Azlin from Ankasa says hi. Hello there, Azlin.
Hi, Azlin. Hope you're doing well. Doesn't feel like that long at all, actually, since we were all in Malaysia.
Okay, so let's begin the webinar.
Okay.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone who has joined here. Let me welcome you all to the session on cooperative identity, a competitive advantage for your cooperative. I would like to highlight that the International Cooperative Alliance is going to celebrate the 33rd World Congress in Seoul, Korea. And the theme of the Congress is deepening the cooperative identity, which includes the definition of cooperatives, values, and principles. Now, what is a cooperative? Cooperatives are people-centered enterprise owned, controlled, and run by and for their members to realize their common economic, social, and culture needs and aspirations. And if we speak about values, cooperatives are based on self-help, self-responsibility, democracy, equality, equity, and solidarity. Cooperative members believe in the ethical value of honesty, openness, social responsibility, and caring for others. So, cooperatives are unique and organized in a manner very different from the traditional joint stock or private companies. And what makes cooperative different from them? Why must cooperative promote their unique identity, especially in the digital world? And when even if we do, what are the different tools that we can utilize? So to answer all this set of questions, to guide us in a right path and make us learn on how to promote and protect our cooperative identity, we have Mr. Tom Ivy from .coop, who is the Community Development Manager. And .coop is jointly owned by the International Cooperative Alliance and National Cooperative Business Association, CLUSA International, with a mission to develop the global cooperative movement. And Tom has always said that joining the cooperative movement has felt like coming home. Since then, he has worked with organizations across the spectrum of the cooperative economy and to raise the profile of co-ops publicly as well as maximizing their economic potential. He is a strong believer in harnessing the power of virtual world to propel the cooperative business model to the forefront. So here I welcome Mr. Tom. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Sri, and welcome and hello to all cooperators and all around the Asia and Pacific region. It's a pleasure and an honor for me to be invited to come and speak here with you and share some of the insights that we have on the best way to promote cooperatives all around the globe. So I hope you find this talk extremely interesting. Please all do familiarize yourselves with the chat, because I will be asking some questions of you and attempting to understand your thoughts and your insights as we go through this session together. So I will refer to that occasionally. Thank you, Shri, for the excellent introduction. I'll expand on that a little bit. So yeah, as he said, my name is Tom. I work for Dot Corporation. So we are the custodian of the cooperative digital tools. That's the .coop domain and the .credit union domain. And we assist with the verification of the Cooperative Mark. If these all sound strange or weird and wonderful to you, then don't worry, because I will cover these later on in the session, just how they work and how you can use them to your best advantage. A little bit of background on me. I've been working for .coop now for about 5 years. I've got a wide-ranging background. I come from teaching, from retail, and I've also done my time in a little bit of corporate banking. As Shri mentioned, it felt like coming home joining the cooperative movement, because I'd worked in all these different cultures, and ultimately I felt when I joined the movement that I'd met a big family of people that were very welcoming and very proactive. So I'm very grateful for the last 5 years for this opportunity. So let's start in the chat and see if people can come and respond to me straight away. And I'll start off by asking just a question to warm us all up. If you can tell me in one name in the chat, and this goes for people watching on YouTube too, please do also use the YouTube chat. If you were stranded on a desert island with nothing else, what one thing would you not be able to live without? What one thing would you want in your bag to have on this desert island? And you can't say cruise ship, because that's cheating. So you've got to have one thing. And I think we've got a few things have come in. People have said books. That's a great idea. If you're on a desert island, you're going to want to have some entertainment, something to do while you wait to be rescued. Water is a very good thing to have as well. I know for a fact I wouldn't be able to do for very long at all without water. That's a great suggestion there. What else have we got? We've got some food. Yeah, absolutely, definitely. Food and water. So it seems like people are definitely going for the essentials. That's a great idea. Yeah, we've also got a survival kit. If you've thought of that, then brilliant. That's a really good planning. And some internet. Absolutely. If you had the internet, you'd be sorted, wouldn't you? You'd have everything you need. Maybe a phone with some internet. You could call for help and then also browse the internet while you wait. Well, that's great. I'm glad that the chat's working well here. So I think what we can do now is we can get straight on into the session. We've also got a flashlight. Yeah, absolutely. It might get dark, and you wouldn't want to be without a light at night. Okay. So you should all be able to see that screen now. Is that okay, Shri? Brilliant. Thank you very much. Okay. So I'll just bring up my notes here. Let's there we go. So yeah, as I've mentioned before already, I am Tom from .coop. So just to start with, I'm going to cover off what we're going to look at in the session today. We're going to cover 3 main points. The first one is that what is branding and marketing and how it relates to the cooperative identity, and also why it is important. And I think it's a good idea to all get on the same page when it comes to the ideas of concepts of branding and marketing before we start to talk about how the tools influence those for cooperatives. Secondly, we also look at the digital world and what that means for cooperatives. As a lot of people have been saying lately, that we're in unprecedented times right now, and the digital world is becoming even more connections between each other open. So we'll look at the digital world. And thirdly, the tools that are available for the cooperatives I'll also cover, which I've already mentioned about the domain, the mark, and the other different assets that we have all put together for the use of the cooperatives. You will hear me say the term digital transformation now and again. It's part of this session about how cooperatives can embrace the digital world as part of their model and use it as a way to boost their potential, their business potential. And Shri has already covered off the meaning of the term cooperative, so I won't go into that as well. That was already covered, we'll assume that that you have a good understanding about how that works. One thing I'd like to address before we go any further is in terms of the value of the session. Some of you might be working in terms of cooperatives that don't necessarily market themselves online or are providing a product or something for a community. But nevertheless, the idea of branding and marketing and the idea of having a cooperative identity, it really is about connections. And business, doing any sort of business, is the world of connections and the world of the relationships that you form with people. And we found with the pandemic that these connections can often be quite fragile, and alternatives are becoming increasingly essential. So that's really where the digital side comes in, and hopefully where the value will come for people that might be in producer cooperatives or cooperatives that are providing a local service. So let's start off and get onto a level playing field with the concepts of marketing. So if you'd like to go to the chat again for me and tell me in one word or in one name an iconic brand that springs to mind. When somebody says a brand, can you think of an iconic name? I've got a couple of examples. They can be cooperative or potentially don't have to be cooperative. Say, for example, Coca-Cola is a world-renowned brand. It's not cooperative, but it's certainly one of the most popular ones. So yeah, we've got a couple coming in. We've got Apple. Yeah, absolutely, Apple. That's with Coca-Cola, isn't it? We've got Gucci, Nike, LV, Prada, I think that is. Yeah, Starbucks. Yeah, these are all global, extremely successful brands. Samsung as well. Yes, absolutely. I think they were one of the first to have a really global presence in terms of their marketing. And we've got one there. Vikas has said Amul. I'm not sure if that's. I haven't heard of that one myself, but I'll have to look that up. So great, some really good brands there, really successful brands. So all of these brands, despite the fact that they operate in very vastly different sectors, they all have one thing in common. And that is that all of these brands have been through a really long development process. A team has gone over their messaging, the details, the designs. They've done an extensive plan that's often based off some market research or a marketing audit. And they have produced this brand in the way that you see it now. And we've all been influenced in some way by these brands, even if we're trying not to be. An example of this is the 10,000 steps a day challenge. That was actually a marketing campaign that was done by a Japanese organization. So the way that that is infiltrated into common knowledge, particularly here in the West, people are always trying to get their 10,000 steps a day in to be fit and healthy without necessarily knowing the origin of where that came from. So why are these brands so powerful? Well, one of the main reasons is the fact that they have become perpetuated and owned by the public and invested in by the media. And this is significant for the fact that they have business success. So those brands that you picked earlier, we could break those down into what they actually do, but I've got two here that I know cooperatives. One is US based, that's Sunkist, and the other one is from the UK. You may not have heard of this one, but it's called The Co-op, and it's probably in the UK one of the most visible forms of a cooperative. And both are well recognized brands in their areas of operation. But what I'd like people to think about is, what is it that makes these organizations different to their competition, and why those brands are successful over the other people that are doing the same sort of things in their organization. So again, go to the chat and have a think. Let me know what you think might be the key reason why these organizations are successful. What have they done that has made their brand push through and become owned and invested in by the public? Now, it's quite a difficult question, but there's a lot of different reasons why. It could be, a clear vision, for example. So that's a good one, Rafa. A clear identity. Yep, they're very sure of what they are themselves. That makes a difference. Absolutely, being clear is an important one. Having customer relations has been suggested here. Absolutely, having the customer at the forefront of what they're trying to do, at the heart of what they want to do. That's extremely important when you're looking at providing a service or providing a platform, starting with the customers. Absolutely, those are some really great examples of why these brands are coming through. And a lot of these are key. But one of the main points about why these organizations are successful is because they've hit this winning formula. And by combining all of those points that you've already put in the chat, along with a few other features, what they've achieved is that people like you and me have really internalized their message. The public have taken this message on board. They own the image and they associate it with emotions and feelings. And that's really significant. If an organization or a product means something to somebody, say, for example, in the coffee industry, if you can equate your business with that early going to work in the morning, tired, with that feeling of having that coffee on the way to work that lifts you up and makes you feel better, this is very significant because it taps into the emotional level. And this is one of the most powerful influences of public opinion. And if an organization, a great brand, can connect with that emotional capacity, then it becomes very successful and it becomes perpetuated. What this does is it takes the organization above the purely functional. Yes, you might be Adidas, you're providing, or Adidas, I'm never sure how to say that. You might be providing sportswear, but if people have emotionally connected with the brand and associated it with good feelings, then people use the terms like, I love my coffee shop, I love my trainers, or I love my cooperative. There's a very different terminology then when we're considering providing a service for people or providing a product. So this isn't something that you can force on people. You can't make people do it. Otherwise, everybody would and everyone would be successful. This feeling must come about from the public side. And once achieved, it can be the most powerful asset to a business. But what we can do is make sure that we have the tools and the language in place that is simple, is clear, all those things that you mentioned in the chat, that is customer or relationship focused. And that will really help to start to develop the cooperative brand and to make it something that people can emotionally connect with and invest in. So that's a basic start on how brands can work, just to get us on a level playing field. So one of the questions is this actually, well, one of the questions I like to ask people is if someone comes out with some competition that might be equal or only slightly different to the one that your cooperative is providing, then what is it that will convince people to stay with what you are doing rather than choosing the competition? And one of the key aspects of this is the brand, because it's the absolute core of sustainability. If we look at point 2 on the slide here, those that connect with your brand will be twice as valuable as those that are merely extremely satisfied. So you can meet everybody's needs or somebody's every need. And if somebody has emotionally connected with your brand, they will be twice as valuable to you than that person, which is incredible. This was from a Harvard business study. We can see that when we look at YouTubers or Patreon or popular music like pop bands. The core elite of their fans are the ones that provide the most input and they provide the most value for that organization. Why is that? Exactly what I mentioned before. They're connected, they're invested, and they become representatives of the brand themselves. Rather than just in the course of day-to-day interaction, every person that's emotionally invested in the brand becomes a form of free advocacy for the organization. And in a word, people are doing your promotion work for you. They all connect and talk to other people around them, and they promote what you're doing and talk about what you're doing. And that's not something that you're involved with. It just becomes of the value of having a strong brand and proposition. So talking about the cooperative brand, starting the journey, it asks an interesting question that what does it mean to be a cooperative organization? So this is where I'd like to find a little bit about how you see cooperatives and being involved in cooperatives. So I've got some questions for the chat. First of all, what, in a short word or small sentence, what prompted you to choose to be involved with cooperatives? Why did you first decide to be part of the cooperative movement? Or maybe what was your first experience with cooperatives? Was it through family? Was it have a cooperative store nearby? Maybe cooperatives provided a service that your community really needed, and that's what first opened up your experience to these things. So have a think and just pop in the chat what you think might be the reason why cooperatives mean something to you. It can be anything at all. Just going to check on the YouTube chat as well to make sure that we're not missing out any good people out there as well. I mean, for example, I'll start off with my first experience of a cooperative was having a cooperative retail store nearby, and it was run by local volunteers and community, and it felt very different to the normal shops in the area. There was lots of people involved. They had regular volunteers coming to work there, and they were using local produce, food from only a few miles around, rather than shipping them in from long distance. And that was something that really, really struck with me. And yeah, somebody said here that it was through their family, and someone else says that they had an experience where a cooperative came and provided a local service to their community. So that was the first interaction. So yeah, absolutely. These are great start-offs. There's a lot of variety in the way that people come to think about cooperatives. And when we think about cooperatives, we also begin to realize that even though we're united by guiding principles and awareness of these principles, the differences in scope and operation, appearance and methods, all of the differences here used by cooperatives are completely vast. And there can be no way that we can encompass every possibility when we think about a unified, cohesive global message. So what we need to think about is what organizations or movements have been able to actually do that. Who has been able to bring together a group of different interests and different people and form them under a single brand? If anybody has any ideas about an organization that's done this, I might not have heard of one in the Asia and Pacific region here. Let me know in the chat. Please do put the name of the organization in there. One that has brought together a lot of different interests under a really good cohesive global brand. I'll give one example here, and that is of the Fair Trade Foundation. So you may have heard of this. It started in 1992 and began with a few small projects, and then they launched the Mark, which you can see there. And this was very successful in bringing a lot of brands under one logo. And they were thereby using the brand to sell a diverse range of products from different ethically minded consumers. And they state that the fair trade is the most recognized and trusted sustainability label in the whole world. And they're a global organization that's co-owned by 1.8 million farmers. So what they have successfully been able to do is bring together 1.8 million farmers producing products and incorporated them under this logo. So the Logo Creative here in the UK, which is an organization designed, their main objective is to produce branding, suggests there are 3 different reasons why we should have a clear message and how we can achieve that. And some of these were suggested by people in the chat earlier. One is the message needs to be consistent. There needs to be a balance between the extent to which brand names differentiate themselves, different product lines, and that message also needs to have connectivity. The use of the name, it needs to speak to people, it needs to be accessible, and it needs to be very clear. And lastly, localization. The brand needs to speak to its international audiences, and the translation needs to be simple or very high quality. so that people can understand it from all walks of life and in all languages. They can still understand it. And all of those mean that you have a successful international brand such as Fairtrade, which is able to bring together a lot of people underneath it. And this is certainly something that we think of when we're thinking of the cooperative identity, which represents such a vast amount of people, over 1 billion on the entire planet. So how are we going to connect what your organizations are doing, what cooperatives you're involved in, with this global identity and brand? Well, first of all, we need to consider the global brand of cooperatives, but it would be a good idea to see how this ties in with the organization you might be involved in and how it relates to the way that your organization does its networking and forms its relationships. There are two main schools of thought in American business circles at the moment, and about how organizations approach a market. And the first one encapsulates what's known today as blue ocean marketing. And this is when you or your organization start with a completely new proposition. You might have had that brilliant new idea for something, and you've decided to go out and to show it to the world, to make it available. You start with a blank sheet. No one has done what you've done before, and that's known as a blue ocean. The second is known as a red ocean. And this is when there is already an established market doing something that you are doing, and they might have done it for many years. An example of this is a taxi company. If you want to start a new taxi cooperative, then there's already a widely established market for taxis. Then your aim and your objective for your organization will be to compete with the existing market for market share. Now, we need to bear in mind that just because you're in an existing market in a red ocean doesn't mean you're at a disadvantage. In fact, you can be at an advantage compared to blue ocean marketing and starting with something completely new. For example, a nimble copycat organization that's following closely behind the market leader can learn from the mistakes that the market leader makes and actually benefit from that and provide a better or more competitive service. So it's a really good idea to think about just where the cooperative that you're involved in, or maybe if you're thinking of starting a cooperative, what area of expertise that you're going to require, which part of work you're going to go into, and how you're going to position your organization at the ground level before we then start to think of cooperative identity. So let's look at the tools of the movement now. So this is where I talk a little bit about the assets that are available to cooperatives that we have created over the last decade or more. Things have changed a lot over the last few years, particularly with the pandemic. Please do let me know if you have any questions on branding. We will have a little question and answer session at the end. So if you have any more ideas or concepts about what branding means and how it works for organizations, then please do let me know, and Shri, at the end of the session. So this next stage, I would like to ask you another question in the chat. What comes to mind when I say cooperative identity? What is the first thing that comes to mind when I say cooperative identity? It might be the mark. It could be the 7 principles, or it could be some way that cooperatives actually operate. Please let me know which sort of organization or what's that first aspect that pops to mind. So we have voluntary. Somebody said voluntary. Or the member being the owner. Absolutely. Member ownership is very key to a lot of cooperators I talk to. That's a key attribute, the fact that they're member organized. Together, I like that. That's a really great aspect. When you first talk about cooperatives, when you think about cooperatives, the idea of people coming together to solve a problem, that's one of the key things. What we represent, absolutely. Definitely. It's a community, isn't it? It's a group of people all working towards common goals. And that's actually, yeah, somebody said that as well, working together towards a common goal. And total human development, as somebody else has said. That sounds like a fantastic concept. Definitely, yes. We are developing as people. We're developing to be community minded. I like that one a lot. And teamwork. Someone's mentioned teamwork as well. That's a great concept. So absolutely, some great. Yep, and we've got the principles. Somebody thinks the principles the first thing, or investment. Wonderful. So what this tells me from these great answers you've put in the chat is the fact that cooperatives make people feel a certain way. A lot of these are very emotional thoughts, you know, the idea of togetherness, the idea of community, the idea of people coming together to solve problems. These are quite emotional rather than visual things or structural. People are slower to suggest, you know, the business structure or something like that. They talk about how cooperatives make them feel. So the trick that we have as a cooperative community is, on one hand, we have this fantastic brand, these cooperative identity tools. On the other hand, we have these great feelings and great emotions that cooperatives naturally make people feel. That when people think of their cooperative businesses or what they're being involved in, they have these thoughts of togetherness and working and developing as a community. So if we can manage the situation so that the brand comes to represent these fantastic emotional positivity and emotional meanings, then we have the foundation and the strength of a very, very effective brand that has the attributes of those incredibly successful ones that we mentioned earlier, of Coca-Cola and Nike and Adidas, by encouraging people to feel positivity, that when they see the cooperative logo, they immediately feel those associations of positivity and teamwork and togetherness. So we do have to remember that cooperatives mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people the whole world over. And there can't be any regulation really on how something must look in the cooperative sector beyond the very highest level. But what we can do is put in place options that mean people can have a choice and choose us. And our job is to make this choice easy. So we've seen that we can't tell people how to feel, but cooperatives do provide these positive feelings and emotions. But if we connect the brand with these emotions, then we make it easier for people to form those relationships and for people to choose to do business with cooperatives over the competition. And that's where the core of a sustainable and very successful brand comes from. So, talking about the way of connecting emotions with visuals, let's move on to one of the most visible forms of the brand, and that is the logo. So, if we can connect these logos go on to powerfully represent the meanings behind your brand. They can communicate a message subliminally to the people that see your logos. So let's start off here and see if people can see some of the subliminal hidden meanings behind some of the logos that I have here. On the left, I have the logo for Hope for African Children. So please go to the chat and let me know if you can see the two meanings or the two symbols that are in the Hope for African Children logo. It's a very well designed logo. And then also we have on the right hand side the FedEx logo. Excuse me. Essentially, they're using their name, the words, to become their logo, FedEx. But if there's a hidden meaning in there, and if you look deeper, you will be able to see it. So if you go to the chat, you can let me know if you can see those logos. Brilliant. So people have got it straight away in the Hope for African Children. You've got a child and an adult looking at each other, and then you've also got the outline of the African map. So really nice logo there that brings together the whole meaning for this charitable organization, whereabouts they're based, and what they're actually involved in doing, which is charity work for African children. So that's a really great example of how a logo can come to define what your organization is about. And people have absolutely spotted the logo in FedEx. There's an arrow between the E and the X. If you look closely, the two orange letters, you can see there is an arrow pointing left to right, which again, it speaks of speed, it speaks of efficiency and delivery, and that's pretty much exactly what FedEx are all about. So well done, you got those logos. So in the next slide, we have a cooperative example. So we designed this logo for the cooperative identity, and there is a slight hidden meaning in here. And that is the fact that we have placed the term elevate your identity, meaning to raise up, to lift and accentuate your identity. We placed this tagline above the .coop symbol. This was really a hidden meaning to suggest that by adopting the cooperative identity, you raise your brand profile, you elevate your organization to the next level. And by bringing together cooperatives, we can together raise the entire cooperative movement by boosting our visibility and lift it up into where it can achieve its full business potential. In the next section, we have the Cooperative Mark. So I'm sure that many of you will have at least seen the mark at some point or certainly heard of it. A little bit of background first on the Cooperative Mark. The International Cooperative Alliance had developed this global identity for the cooperative movement, the Cooperative Mark. And it was designed in cooperation with Calvert's, which was a UK-based design company, and the International Cooperative Alliance. The Cooperative Mark is used by co-ops all around the world to support the cooperative identity and the cooperative movement. So it's really a badge. It's a badge of the cooperative community, and it's used alongside your normal branding identity as a logo. The mark can be used on a website. It can be attached to newsletters, packaging, an email signature, for example, publications, promotions, or any sort of signage or something like that. And we'll see a couple of examples of these in a little second. I'll show you some cooperatives that have been able to integrate the brand and the mark very effectively into their own identity. So these are the tools, the domain, as we've seen in the logo before, and the mark here, that were designed to represent the cooperative community globally. And that means that it doesn't matter what industry or what sector or purpose the cooperative has. These tools were designed to represent them as a whole. So let's look at some examples here of how they've been used. This is an example from the UK, Revolver Cooperative. They're an international brand that are doing everything from sort of hot drinks all the way to there's an independent music label associated with them as well. So you can see here how the cooperative identity has been combined seamlessly with the individual and independent branding and sort of feel and font you can see of their Revolver logo that's trademark. They've seamlessly incorporated the brand into their own look and feel. And this while keeping their own unique identity intact, which is very important for every cooperative to have its own identity about what it's doing. But it also roots it firmly within the cooperative community. And if someone has a good experience with the cooperative community by different organizations using this co-op mark, it starts to become a visual trigger for people that are looking to do business with cooperatives. That when they see that logo, they associate themselves with the cooperative community advantages, the trust, the good feelings, the fact that they are giving to a community of worker owners, that they're giving to a community of people that are working together for a common goal. That becomes the visual tell when somebody is going about their daily life that they can look for. That means that they will choose cooperatives. So our next example here is one from Latin America, Revolver Cooperative. And they're a financial cooperative from Colombia. So what they have managed to do here is integrate not only the Cooperative Mark into their website, which is a really fantastic way, as I said, of building that multi-layer brand, but you can see here that they've used the same idea to also build their web presence. On the left-hand side, they've put the mark below their logo for their name, Confaya. And on the right-hand side, under the purple writing for Confaya Cooperativa, you can see their domain name there is confaya.coop. So they've integrated their cooperative brand, their identity with the mark and their domain, but they're also using their own personal branding and imagery. And this seamlessly comes together to create a really powerful visual look and a really powerful proposition that firmly roots them within the cooperative community, but also retains that sense of independent, individual business going about its daily tasks. Very effective use of the tools here. So let's now do a little bit of a deeper dive into how the cooperative identity tools can be harnessed to effectively manage the digital side of things, the digital sphere. I've touched on the .coop domain, but let's talk about cooperatives and their digital transformation. First, we need to understand the differences between old ways of thinking, pre-digital and sort of traditional techniques, and the new ways that cooperatives, particularly young cooperators, such as many of you are doing to really push their cooperatives into the new age and to harness all of the available tools. First of all, I'd like to ask in the chat, what obstacles do you think cooperatives might face when looking to get themselves online and to harness the digital sphere? What issues might they have that means that they cannot effectively harness the digital sphere? And there's a couple that spring to mind. And first of all is education. As sometimes it can be very difficult for cooperatives to have the technological know-how to be able to really embrace transforming their methods of work into the digital side of things. We've got some suggestions here. Technical skills. Absolutely. If your cooperative is primarily involved in agriculture or is primarily involved in providing a local service, then more often than not, your organization and the people involved in that are aimed at doing exactly that, the day-to-day tasks of the cooperative. You may not have people working for the cooperative or within the network that have the technical skills to be able to push some of your cooperative operational aspects online. And connectivity, exactly, an internet signal. That's something that I know a lot of organizations are working towards attempting to mitigate now, is to actually get connectivity out to those hard to reach areas. Even myself, where I am here in the UK, I don't really have a fast internet connection. So it's something that can affect people all around the world. And funding, that's a very good point to make, is that often web services and online services, they can be expensive. For example, web development and things like that. Cooperatives, particularly grassroots startups, youth cooperatives, those that are just getting into the swing of things, they might not have the capital available to start a digital transformation. Absolutely. So some really great points there. So there are a couple of other issues too when people go online with digital, because there's a lot of options available, such as social media, YouTube, and different things like that. These are easy to use and easy to access services, and people can immediately go online and start creating content and talking about their cooperative business, talking about what they're doing. And while that can be free in the terms of social media or cheap, and it can be easy, there are some problems with that as well. And one of those is that putting up a noise online about what you're doing, it can often obscure the real value of what your organization is up to. If you don't have a strategy or a fundamental purpose behind the things that you're doing online, if you don't have a connected and unified message that you can take from the real world and it can transfer seamlessly online, then what you risk there is a confusion or a lack of clarity. And as soon as you have any confusion or lack of clarity in your message as it's projected online, then you can risk making customers or stakeholders or people involved in your cooperative confused, and that encourages them to go towards the competition. We need to remember, as we've seen before, that emotional connection is the key. And through that, simplicity is key, and working together in harmony is key. So when considering a digital transformation, while we can be quick to harness the benefits, that it's fast and easy to put programs and content into action, and it's faster and easier to reach a wider audience than we've ever thought possible. For example, this very session. We need to remember that it's important to have a bedrock and a fundamental message that we can build our business up from, and that easily translates from the real world onto line and back again. That's a great and important start point to have when you're considering maybe a new business, or even if your cooperative has been in operation for a long time and you have a new program or a new asset to launch. Then it's important to remember that these need to connect and be part of that foundation, that bedrock of messaging that you have already formed for your cooperative. So now we can understand how having a cohesive strategy and a digital plan is important. So let's look at how we can develop this. So I'd like to go back to the chat. And this is to judge among us what we think might be the easiest way for a cooperative organization to undertake a digital transformation. What's the first thing that an organization could do to get itself online, to break through and to start marketing itself as a cooperative? Again, go to the chat. For example, it could be social media. That's a really good first example. That's the first thing that a cooperative can do, is can set up social media. And even if you don't have anything else, that can be one of the key start-offs. Someone here has mentioned a blog. That's right, absolutely. A blog is something else that you could also start, or a YouTube channel. That's right, or a website. So these are all really great, easy ways that people can have to start off. You don't need anything to start off a blog. You don't really need, you need a bit more to start a YouTube channel, maybe a camera and a way of uploading it. So that's an important thing. An advertisement, yes, absolutely. Yeah, you can get on there. Instagram, someone says, or friends. Yeah, definitely. Yes, if you have a friend that can help out, absolutely. All of these suggestions here state that there's a number of different ways a new cooperative can get online, and a number of ways a new cooperative can start to make itself heard. But you need to also realize that with all of these different channels, you need some form of branding and a powerful identity to be successful in this sphere. If you have set up a Twitter, you've set up an Instagram, you've set up your website, which has got your .coop domain at the top, and a YouTube channel, all of these different channels, they all need to be able to link together and to be cohesive. You need to have this powerful branding, this powerful identity that speaks to what you are doing. And so people, when they see the fact that it's a different channel, it's a different way of speaking to people, they still recognize you and your organization for what you're doing. Again, it links back to what we were saying earlier about branding needing to be simple and to be clear, to be effective. So again, this is another consideration to have when starting out a cooperative or building your digital transformation, that across all of these available platforms, all of the possibles, options you have of reaching people, that your message is concise and clear across all of them. Cooperative identity can be used to get started even if you don't really have a brand yet, and non-cooperative organizations do not have that asset available to them. A cooperative can start up, and if you don't have anything at all, you can still use the cooperative identity tools, the mark, the domain, and those different assets that we have there, which I'll talk about in a little bit, to get yourself online and connect with that cooperative community, to can link yourself in with a successful group of people of over 1 billion cooperators around the world. You're automatically connecting yourself with that, and it's forming a cohesive identity. It's very important to remember that is an asset that non-cooperative organizations don't always have access to, the ability to harness the identity. So I've talked a little bit about the .coop domain, but what I haven't actually done is explain it in any detail. So let's talk a little bit now about the digital online tools and how we can best use those to promote the cooperative identity. So a little bit about the domain, for those of you that don't already know about it. The .coop is the only domain that is reserved for cooperatives and cooperative organizations. The registry, which is .corporation, manages the domain, and it was recognized back in 2002. If you need to have a .coop domain for your business, then you also need to pass a verification. And Corporation, the organization I work for, we manage the process of verifying cooperatives. And as Sri mentioned at the start of the session, Corporation is owned jointly half and half by the International Cooperative Alliance and by the National Cooperative Business Association in the US. Both of these organizations charged with developing the global cooperative movement and representing it on the international scale. So let's talk about the internet now, a little bit about the history of the internet and what it means from coming from the old days of .com all the way to today. Well, it's become a very crowded and confusing marketplace now for organizations online. If we look at all these different domain names that an organization could have, if you, for example, were a shop selling clothes to your local community and you wanted to take your business online, there's literally at least a dozen domain names here that you might think could be relevant. There's many more than are represented here. .shop, you could have .clothes, .garments or something, even .local, clothes, .local. So there are dozens and dozens of different opportunities, and all of them mean different things. But what does having a distinct domain for the cooperative movement do for us? Why do we want to use a .coop? Essentially, the .coop domain enhances your organization's personality online, and it gives people a little snippet that tells them exactly what you do before they've even read anything about your organization or know anything about your cooperative. Because the domain is at the top of the website and it's on all the material that you would send to people or have available for people to see, because people will type it in themselves when they look to find you or read it whenever they're first seeing your business card or something like that, then this domain shows people, it tells them automatically that you are cooperative before they know anything else about your business, maybe even before they know what you do. And if using this domain at the top of the page, more and more organizations do this, then we will find that we will bring together a cohesive and common message that stretches out among many others. Now, I've noticed that while I've been talking here, we have run over time a little bit and we need to stay on track. So what I'll do is I will just skip through the next few parts just to make sure that we have enough time for questions. Because I really want to say that, the use of the .coop domain benefits the cooperative movement and it brings an immediate identification to those organizations online. And it's a crowded world. We find ourselves both in the real world and online. So we need to make this choice simple. And by using the mark, by as many people as possible using the domain, fundamentally, we're giving the people a choice, and to make that choice simple. It gives us an opportunity to work together with each other, to spot each other, to bring that hidden cooperative economy into the visible world, to make it easier to work with each other. And this is the heart of Principle 6 for cooperatives to find each other. So there are many different technical aspects to using the domain and many benefits that come from using the different tools. I would encourage you to check out the website identity.coop, and you can see there that there are many, many different ways that cooperatives can harness and benefit from the cooperative identity. And I look forward to some of your questions. I'm sure that you will have many because I've covered a lot of different topics today. I've skipped over a lot of different things. So I'll go through how to use it. I won't cover this off now because these are all available on the identity.coop. But I would just like to sum up by saying that I very much believe in the unity and cohesiveness of the cooperative movement. I'm always surprised and very much encouraged by the energy that I see in young cooperators and the great work that they are coming out and doing. And I feel that if together we can speak with one voice, we can speak with one unified brand and identity, then we can really begin to maximize the potential, the energy and the excitement that I see in the cooperative movement, and push it so far into the mainstream that people will always choose cooperatives first and will always look for that cooperative mark or look for that .coop domain when they're looking to source a service, source a product, or form some new relationships. So thank you very much for listening to me and to being involved in the chat. And I look forward to some of your questions.
Thank you so much, Tom, for the very informative presentation. But unfortunately, we ran out of the time, and we have to start immediately a new session on the student cooperative clubs in Asia Pacific, which I'll again paste a link here. But just to you know, to end this session, I would like to mention that during this youth summit, we have organized a CoOp pitch competition, and different participants from different countries like Malaysia, Indonesia, Philippines, India, they have applied, and there are lots of new different business ideas that they have come up with, and I really believe that I hope that a few of our corporate participants are have taken part in this particular session, because if they decide to come up and if they win the prize, and if they decide to form a cooperative, maybe this is the way that they can approach you and to procure the first initial step to purchase a .coop. And I'm sure there might be some kind of incentive for the participants or the winners, where you can negotiate and do stuff. But on the other hand, as the main identity, so since they are coming as an individual, forming a team, and then coming out with a business idea, and if they and the first initial step for their identity will be to procure the domain. That's how they will start and make it as a difference. And you have also mentioned about the blue ocean, start something new and create a unique feeling around it. So I think these participants are from the blue ocean concept, so they'll have definitely come up with different amazing ideas, and I'm really hoping that whoever wins it, and their idea will be very unique and very different, and young people will get inspired from that.
Absolutely.
Maybe Tom, you can just put out your email ID in the chat, so that the participants who wants to get in touch, they can get in touch with you.
Absolutely, because I would just say that so my email address is in the chat, but I would definitely say that if anybody has questions around the cooperative identity in general and what it means and the way we can use the tools, fundamentally what we do is provide the domain name. That's sort of the basic line of what we do. But we have evolved over the last few years into so much more. We have so many more different assets which we can provide for co-ops, and we can help with for people that are looking to harness the tools. So if you have any questions at all, if you're starting up a new cooperative and you would like just somebody to answer some questions on how to best harness the identity and to connect it with whatever cooperative organization or whatever you're doing, please do send me an email. Get in touch. I would be happy to be involved. Absolutely.
Cool. Thank you so much, Tom. And I have to quickly jump to the next session. I'll see you soon in the cultural session.
Yeah, I look forward to it.
Okay.
That'll be
And
great. Thank you very much.
Just to inform to all participants that we'll be uploading the presentation later on the website, so you can have a look over there. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you
very
so
much.
much, Tom. Thank you for taking out time and coming on board. Thank you so much.
No problem. We'll see everybody later in the cultural session.
Yeah. See you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.